Hi, this is Jackie Bruton, and this month is Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month. And because this is such a huge issue, I decided to record this video and leave it out here on my page so that if any girl who has experienced this trauma or knows someone who's experienced this trauma needs to just hear some information about it to understand that number one, you're not alone, and just some ways that you can deal with what has happened to you. I am not a therapist. I'm not a counselor, at all. But I have spoken to over 100,000 teens and received over 12,000 letters from teenagers that I've spoken in the classroom to, and I know that this is a huge issue because of what I've read in the letters and heard from young people crying in my arms after class. And first, let me share a stat with you. And there are a lot of stats that are out there, but the one that I use in the classroom is that 1 out of 5 girls and 1 out of 6 boys will have been raped or molested by the age of 18. And some of this rape or molestation happens when they're, much younger. Could be toddlers, could be in elementary school, and some of it has just been a result of, on date rape as teenagers. And I started getting the letters, but I also started doing this activity where when I do assemblies, it's called Please Stand Up If. And one of the situations that I have the young people to stand up for is I say, please stand up if you know a teen girl, because this is typically in audiences of all girls. Please stand up if you know a teen girl who has been raped or molested. And without fail, about 50% of the audience will stand up. And I think what's so powerful about that exercise is that number one, it allows the girls who are in the audience who not just they know somebody, but they are that somebody that has been raped or molested. It allows them to realize that they're not alone, that they're not the only one. And I'm going to mainly talk about how this affects girls, but trust me, this is an issue for boys as well. I mean, as the stat said, 1 out of 5 girls and 1 out of 6 boys. But because my target audience is for teenage girls, that's what I'll be talking about in this video. But it is an issue for boys as well. And I saw a stat today that said only about 20%, no, it said 20% of situations of rape and molestation happens by a stranger. The other 80% is based on an acquaintance. It could be a family member. It could be a date. It could be a family friend. And it said less than 12% of childhood sexual abuse is reported. And that's tragic. But I understand there's some reasons why it doesn't get reported. Number one, a lot of times the child, especially if they're younger, they don't even realize that it's abuse because the perpetrator has actually told them that this is what's supposed to happen. This is what you do when you care about somebody. So a lot of it isn't reported just because the child doesn't really know that it's abuse. Another reason is even if they do recognize that it's abuse, they're embarrassed to report it because they're embarrassed that they even participated in it. Another reason is that they're afraid that they won't be believed. And they're afraid if I tell somebody, they're going to question whether I did something to make them want to do it, or they're going to question whether it even happened. Another reason is they're afraid that they will get in trouble. And sometimes the perpetrator will tell them, if you tell, you're going to get in trouble and you're going to get blamed. And the next reason is they're afraid that either they will get harmed if they tell or their family member will get harmed. And again, this is one that's usually told to them by the perpetrator, but just understand all of that is just a ploy. It's just, tactics that the perpetrator uses to keep you silent. And here are the problems with not reporting it. And even if it's happened to you a long time ago, like it still needs to be reported because number one, if it's not reported, then that means that person that violated you is then free to go and violate somebody else. The next reason why it needs to be reported is because if it's not reported, that also means you're not getting any counseling or therapy. And this is a very traumatic experience that you shouldn't have to get over on your own. And when you don't get counseling or therapy, a lot of times what I'm reading in letters from girls is that they start to medicate their pain. They start to make other poor choices as just trying to medicate the pain. And when that happens, what you're really doing is the person who violated you hasn't just harmed you in the past. Now you are allowing that same person to control or harm your future, and they do not deserve that. You do not need to give them that much power to control what your future looks like because they've already violated you in the past. And when you don't get report it and you don't get counseling, here are some of the things that I've heard and read in letters from girls that they start to believe. The first thing is that they start to believe that it was their fault. And they think they're going to get blamed. And they'll say, well, maybe I shouldn't have been there. Maybe I should have fought harder. Maybe I shouldn't have worn that. Maybe I shouldn't have been drunk. Maybe I shouldn't have. All of those maybe you shouldn't have been, those are not any issues that you need to be concerned about, because it is never the victim's fault. Never. I don't care how you were dressed. I don't care where you were. I don't care, it's never the victim's fault. And don't go around with that weight on your shoulders, blaming yourself because you should not have had to fight. You should not have had to, check whether I was in the right place, especially if you were a little kid. But even as a teenager, it is never your fault. I don't care when it happened. It is never your fault. The second thing that girls start to believe is, and I've started hearing this a lot lately, is they start to believe that, maybe I wanted it. And this is why they say that, is because oftentimes there is a physical reaction that happens in their body during the molestation or the rape that can be pleasurable, even though they're being violated, even though they don't want it. And so they confuse that with, did I really give consent? Because, I felt some pleasure. That is just a reaction that happened that you cannot control, but that does not mean that you wanted it. It doesn't mean you consented to it. And it also doesn't mean it's your fault because you had a reaction that was, may have been somewhat pleasurable. The third thing that girls start to believe, and I think this is the most devastating one, is that they start to believe that they're damaged goods. And when you start to believe that you're damaged goods, then you continue to have sex, or you start to make other poor choices. And let me read you a letter from a young lady that I got, that's exactly what she believed. She said, your visit made me rethink my life and all of my choices. You helped me with my past emotional scars. You said something I'll always hold close to my heart. Just because you were raped or molested doesn't mean you're damaged goods. Tears came down my face as soon as you said it. Through all of the writing, pain, and coping mechanisms I tried, all it took was you saying that simple, powerful thing for me to honestly realize what I deserve. I was in the darkest place once before, and I never want to be in that place again. I was just so messed up in the head, and I'll always repeat those words to myself whenever those old emotions come back to me. I can't thank you enough, Miss Jackie. Please keep saving lives, because that's exactly what you're doing. And you know what? Just like this young lady, I hope and pray that you hearing those words, that will be what you will need to not blame yourself as well. And I hope that you can repeat those words to yourself whenever you start to feel down and depressed and start to, make poor choices. Like I've heard girls tell me they were cutting, they're taking antidepressant medicine, all of these things because they're walking around with a secret on their shoulders. And trust me, whatever you think is going to happen as a result of you telling will be far less than the pain and the burden that you're walking around with right now. And if it hasn't been reported, here's some places you can go. If you can't trust go to your family, of course, your mom or your parents. If that doesn't work, or if you don't feel like they're going to believe you, you can go to a teacher at school, a counselor at school, a faith leader if you're a person of faith, a coach if you're in athletics. You can call Child Protective Services. There's a 1-800 number that you can call that you can report it as well. I don't care how much time has passed. It's like you need to take control of your life and not allow the person who violated you to control any more of your future. So I just hope that something that I said during this video, if this has been your experience, I hope that something that I have said will allow you to get some peace and allow you to understand how important it is to report it and to get counseling. Until next time.